Shane, you've been in the cloud computing world for quite some time now. Give us a snapshot of how the Pentagon is implementing their cloud computing strategy at the moment.
So I've been mostly working the vendor side, but I've been hovering around defense, intel, and federal IT for the last decade, building products, helping the government build products, and seeing the rise in cloud adoption. I've gone through a couple migrations from on-prem and air-gapped environments to now the government regions as we've started to mature those. And there's been big changes. Like obviously, a decade ago, cloud wasn't as widely adopted, but there weren't as many options either. We started to build some of those capabilities. The early GovCloud regions starting to get more opportunities, especially on with the AWS side, and then other vendors, other hyperscalers came in and helped build that out, created similar capabilities. And just recently, Google, of course, pushed really big on their Google Cloud for government. As we've seen that public sector maturation and some more capabilities come there, more agencies are trying to take advantage of it, which is great. But we've also seen this big shift in the way that strategic leadership, especially in defense, but in almost every federal department or agency, thinks about cloud computing, in that they're thinking about that decision superiority and the ability to provide information services as critical to their mission in the current context and in the future fight or in the future of government, not just something that they kind of have to do or is part of it. And that centrality, I think, is different. And the way that cloud allows and empowers those capabilities so the government has to spend less time on infrastructure and more time building services, solutions, and apps. That's been a really big change and a mindset shift for the way that government thinks about IT and IT spend, especially as cloud is an on-demand budgeting system or cost system. So yeah, it's been a big shift.
Shane, with all that going on in cloud computing, so many changes coming along, and many of them probably haven't gotten to the right places yet. How is the military working? What's the state of the military itself in terms of mission readiness when it comes to cloud computing?
I think it's in a really interesting place because it's kind of a spectrum of where it sits across the board. I think we've had a shift in the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, COVID was this massive catalyst for moving towards digital first and really making that central to the way that we do mission, not just for people to actually talk to each other and, like making remote work possible in the DoD was a massive lift. And with it came a need to jump into cloud computing and that spend model to take advantage of those services there to make that happen. But now we're starting to see at all levels, we had these innovation spaces, particularly in the DoD, that led the charge out to building service capabilities on cloud. So you have the software factories, you had groups like the Air Force's Cloud One, Army ECMA, and also inside the other services as well, start to build out these spaces where we can take advantage of what those cloud offerings are and make them not just viable, but ready for mission systems. And that early work is now starting to become, we're not quite at the place where it's entirely settled or gelled. There's still lots of work to do, but the cooperation level is very different. Instead of a lot of what I would have characterized as like innovation starts that had sort of individual communication with each other, you're seeing more interest from across the operational and tactical levels, thinking about how we're going to combine these capabilities, where we can share, where we don't have to build again. And now we're starting to see, obviously, like the inclusion of an enterprise capability from DoD with the JWCC contract and the capabilities getting stood up there.
Oh, I see. And I think we saw the importance and the urgency of cloud computing a few weeks ago when the Starlink network went down in Ukraine, and it caused some problems for people on the ground. So that perhaps that put things into perspective for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, the centrality of these distributed network systems to support needs. I mean, Starlink is interesting for a whole matter of reasons, but it's interesting to see like some of the hyperscalers coming up with portable aspects of what they do, or creating, cloud in a box that they can ship out to different sites to create that portability so that we can extend geographically and have some of that immediacy and be able to support some of those mission needs and sort of take the cloud closer to the edge or all the way out to it. And have the portability of mission apps all the way across that space as well. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like we see a crisis like that. How do we rise to meet it? What capabilities do we already have? And can we scale them adequately to meet the need that we have right now? That's something that cloud is great at, taking us from zero to hero really quickly when it comes to some of these applications and services.
And with the new federal fiscal year coming up, there could be some cost implications. Kind of, what is a little bit of a snapshot of cost in cloud computing right now on the federal level?
I think we've done a good job at killing the myth that cloud is cheaper because it's cheaper, which is great. Like the thing about cloud is that it's not about reducing the cost relative to a data center. Like you've seen this reemergence of conversation about like whether it makes sense for your company to run in cloud or not. And I think that's good because we should be taking a scientific method approach to what it is that we want to actually address. Like, is cloud best for the mission I want to support? Am I going to have big variability in usage? Do I need to have wide distribution? Or is it an app that's going to run on the same server forever and ever? Like, could I run it on Bob's laptop and it would be fine? There's a whole like spectrum of need, and cloud isn't always the best solution. But in more and more cases, especially for government, which is, in DoD in particular, which is the largest enterprise with the largest cloud contract and cloud spend of any single organization probably in the world, it starts to get to a place where scale is almost a by default demand.
And one thing I've always been curious about, and you mentioned several different services and vendors, is remember the predecessor to the current contract being JEDI, which was, I think the vision was one big vendor and everyone goes to that, and that got split up into several other vendors. Is that causing problems? Is that causing problems for the users? Is it causing costs to rise? Or are people dealing with it?
I'm not sure that optionality is really the driver of cost. I mean, optionality is optionality. So having JWCC be more vendor agnostic, or at least having more options at the outset and more to follow, means that folks can take advantage of the different services those cloud providers offer if it suits their need better. So it's about how does it support the use case you have, what risk trade-offs do you want to make, and then making sure you have that flexibility in case something goes wrong, or in case you want to make sure that you can get a better offer. So yeah, I mean, having them compete should help keep prices lower versus picking one and having them sort of drive that contract for forever.
Shane Quinlan from Kion, it's a fascinating conversation. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate it.